if you're on YouTube right now, you see me shrugging and like, ugh, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. But I'm going to.
You should take that shirt off and burn it right now.
I'm gonna go take a Javonte shower after we're done.
Like Ace Ventura after he kisses Einhorn.
The plunger just.
Be careful with that motion there.
I just realized on camera what that looked like.
You've been using the Shakeweight, Joe? Huh? You been working out? Great form. To me, he's got pole position too, Joe.
Pole position is right.
We're gonna edit that out, right?
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with The Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. Dynasty Underground is back in your life. I am Trav, hosting, West Coastin, as per usual. And of course, I am joined by the Miyagi of the Undroppables, the host of the Undrafted, one Jax Falcone. How are you this night?
Easy for you to say, pal. I am doing fantastic.
Apparently.
I love it. I'm doing great. I've been shuttling my kids around from summer camp to summer camp, and just in a daze from all the taxiing I am doing as a dad. Crazy stuff. But I'm here.
Such is the life, brother. And as I try not to stutter introducing Joe, he is, of course, in the corner office with the view, but casual Kudatakis in the golf shirt tonight, not the full button up, aka the power broker, aka the aristocrat. What's cracking, playa?
Oh man, I'm good. I was doing great, but to be honest with you, like this is kind of a slow time in the news cycle. It's like voluntary mini camps have ended, mandatory mini camps have ended, and now we're just getting just so much bullshit. Reports, stuff on Twitter, just crazy stuff. And I almost lost my mind today. There's this account on Twitter that I blocked, but it came across my vantage point already. It's one of these aggregators called Elite Drafters. I'm not telling you this because I want to give them any clout, but oh my God, you would not believe this tweet. They posted a video of tight end Mitchell Evans, and they said, looking sharp in OTAs for Carolina Panthers. He's flashed as the next Gronk. With elite hands, great blocking, and big playability, he's poised to take over as a tight end one. What the fuck does flashed as the next Gronk mean? You flashed as a Hall of Famer in OTAs? Guys, listen, pay attention to us, but God, my God, please tune out most of this garbage that's out there. Please, please, please mute these aggregators. I saw this and I just got mad. It's like there's stuff to dig into right now. This is actually a perfect time to dig into stuff, which is kind of what we're doing tonight. But then I see this stuff and I'm just like, oh my God, like Mitchell Evans might be good. Who knows? I have no idea. But flash as the next Gronk is the most categorically moronic thing I've ever heard. You can't flash as a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry.
No, I think what if he's just partying? What if he is just the king of the party at this point? You know what I mean? The life of the party, rolling around shirtless. I don't know if you guys ever watched Blue Mountain State, but you know the big beefcake from Blue Mountain State? I wonder if he's just walking around like that. You know what I mean? And maybe that is flashes of the next Gronk. I think Gronk put it together on the field, but maybe that's what they're comparing it to. Because I don't know if Mitchell Evans and his 4.78 40 are necessarily.
I'm gonna chime in here. I was about to defend Elite Drafters, even though I also have him blocked, because I was going to say, wait a minute, this can't even be the real take. I was like, no, it's not true. Like, it's got to be sarcasm or whatever. So I was like, let me just see. I'm sure he's got other sarcastic takes, and this is clearly one of them. And then I just did a quick timeline, peek. And the tweet right before that one was, Mitchell Evans may be the next Rob Gronkowski. Said unironically. I was like, well, you wouldn't do a sarcastic tweet twice. And then I scrolled even further, and further down there's one with the sleeper alert. Mitchell Evans, Carolina, one of the worst tight end units last season, Evans has the best 10-yard split among 25. Like, he's not joking. This is like real. You're right. This is crazy. No wonder I haven't blocked. Let's move on.
I mean, I just like I have this thing when I listen. I try and get as many opinions as I can. I try and be as open minded as I can, but I have a bullshit detector, and the second it goes off, I'm like, I'm gonna just hit the pause button on this. And then, like, when I see repeated bullshit, I'm like, I'm just blocking you.
We got to be done.
Because I do think that there is a suboptimal amount of information that can be absorbed, right? If any person hears a million different things, they don't know where to land.
Yes.
So I want strong takes from trusted sources, and I hope that we can be that to our listeners. But when we hear stuff like some random dude that was, I don't even know what round Mitchell Evans got drafted in, because he was not
5.
Okay. Like, he's gonna be the next Gronk. It's like, just stop. I don't like even players that I love, first round picks that I love. I don't compare them to Hall of Famers, right? I don't compare them to the best tight end of all time, easily top 2 or 3 tight ends of all time. Like, I'm sorry, we just don't do that. I'm not even putting Brock Bowers there yet, and I'm a Raider fan, right?
Yes,
and he probably is, but I refuse to do it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Player Profiler has him ranked as the 11th most athletic tight end in the 2025 class out of 15. Out of 15.
Oh,
very
so,
Gronk-like.
Yeah, no doubt. So, not a profile that you would want to attach to. We actually have a little bit of like for one Jatavian Sanders in that tight end room.
Also,
so Joe, I'm not going to let those
probably
aggregators
not
get
the
you
next
down
Gronk,
anymore.
Jatavian Sanders.
Also, definitely not the next Gronk, and no such claims have been made.
Actionable advice here. Listen, block the aggregators. Block the aggregators. Block out all the noise. Listen to people that are either backing their stuff up with data or are at least funny.
Right.
Dove
Kleiman or whatever his name is, awful. Just awful. Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to give them any more time on this beautiful show, because if you want well thought out content, this is the place to be. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find that in the episode description. Subscribe on the YouTube channel, The Undroppables, and you'll have a good time with it. We've, of course, got our free Discord server. We got our Patreon. We got all sorts of content. And I personally, Joe, I don't soak in too much fantasy football content in general, because I like to keep the takes as fresh as I can coming from my brain, as opposed to the 12 other opinions that I've funneled into mine. So, we try to keep it fresh here on the Underground. So.
Like, I don't, like, we don't like, even when we're talking before the show, we don't hate on anything. We're like, we're not haters, so I don't really give a fuck. Let him do his thing. God bless him. I hope he gets 1 million retweets on that. Good for you. Congratulations. Like, good for you. But yes, don't listen to it. Anyway, do your thing, Trav. Take us home. Bring us to the promised land.
Bring us back to the Underground, because what we're doing tonight, guys, is we are continuing our series. Of course, the last 2 weeks we have gone through, I think, 10 teams, maybe 11 teams,
right?
12. Look at that. The old dozen in the books. And we're giving a top to bottom rundown of each team from a dynasty lens, talking about the players that you want, players you want to avoid, some diamonds in the rough, and some people, that we might want to get out of there. So it's been really fun so far, guys, and we're going to keep that going. And the group today is a little bit fun. In the group chat, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to entitle them. They're kind of those frisky teams who have been on the cusp for us. They got those top half offenses, but they just haven't quite put it together. But this year they could easily vault into, or maybe back into, the elite tier, like some of those teams that we've already talked about. So we're calling these guys,
would you say,
the almost climax.
Would you say
all-stars.
they almost got there? They almost got us.
Almost. They almost got us there. So we call them the almost climaxed all-stars.
They're that's on the edge tonight.
Is that they just edged out the next group we're gonna do.
Just edged them out. Just by about a
better
tip or
than
so.
Nothing, but doesn't quite get you there.
Right. Yes.
So those teams are, gentlemen, the Texans, the 49ers, the Chargers, the Dallas Cowboys, and we're gonna start with the Green Bay Packers. It's a really interesting team. It's a lot of weapons, but one that I've been finding myself having a hard time attaching to because of all of those weapons that are there, some of the uncertainty, the difficulties in pinning down exactly what's going to happen. And I don't think all of that stems from this man, but I think he is obviously a key cog in that machine. And that would be Jordan Love, gentlemen. I want to talk a little bit about his standing in the quarterback landscape because we talked about him on the rankings episode just a smidgen. He's probably within that top 15, but not quite in the top 10 of our dynasty quarterbacks area. And last year he was a quarterback 17. Previous year was his first year as a full starter, and he was the quarterback 7. So, Joe, let's start with you. What do you make of Jordan Love in the dynasty landscape? And he's somebody, you've been in a bunch of these startups. When you see him on the clock or when you're on the clock and he's on the board there, what are the thoughts that are going through, like when that coin is in the air, maybe?
So I think that Jordan Love is a very interesting prospect. I think he had a very good second half to his first year as a starter. I think last year there were peaks and valleys, but we have to remember that literally in game 1 last year, he got injured, right? He had a knee injury in game 1 on that terrible turf in Brazil or whatever the heck surface they were playing on that all the players complained about. So it's hard to say. The Green Bay offense also got, I don't know, kind of off on the wrong foot. And I just feel like he never really found his rhythm. So it's kind of a tale of 2 seasons for Jordan Love, where we saw like immense upside. And then we were kind of disappointed because he didn't really realize the upside we were envisioning in season 2. So I think middle of the road is kind of the safe place to put him. What I'm kind of tying him to is Matt LaFleur and a good offense that's part of the McShanahan tree, right? They've got 5 decent wide receivers. One we think is pretty good, a handful that we think are pretty average, but the depth of that position plus a good tight end makes him interesting. And with the coaching staff, I think you can bet on him being efficient. I think we put him kind of in the Brock Purdy category of like ups and downs. He can't get to top 6 or top 5, but he also, I don't think, is going to drop below, I don't know, the 2022 mark. So he lives right in the middle there, I think, in the, I don't know, 11 to 15 range. That's kind of where I feel he belongs. And I hope I'm surprised. I don't think we're going to be that disappointed just based on the integrity of that scheme and that coaching staff and the organization.
Yeah, and I know you saw that I shared a trade I made for Jordan Love. Also, Wiz and I traded for Jordan Love this off season as well in a league. So I feel like he's been pretty gettable. I think there's some people who are a little bit nervous about Jordan Love's future, myself included. But when the market's nervous, I'm willing to buy back in. Buying the dip is sort of one of the ways to win in Dynasty. Obviously, you can crap out. You can crap out with any asset. So, of course, we understand there's still downside. It's not like you're buying him at the bottom. The bottom is not starting in the NFL, but he's pretty well safe above that. I think if you look at his 2023 season, his schedule was so soft, and he ended up being a top 6 or 7 fantasy quarterback that year. Yeah.
7.
So, I mean, obviously he came through last year. He was hurt, faced a much tougher schedule, had some other injuries on the offense, some other issues with the offense, etc. I think he's somewhere in between that. I think he's prolific and erratic. That's what I think he is. So I like prolific, especially if they're going to roll them for the next few years. I think he's a safe dynasty hold for a couple of years, you would think. I don't think they're going to cut bait with him anytime soon. It just doesn't feel like it at all. So I think you're safe in a lot of ways. And I think his, prolificness, is that a word?
Yeah.
It is now, buddy.
Great. His prolificness is something that you want to, tie to. I just did the tiers for the quarterbacks, and I posted that on Twitter. And after quarterback 12, I put another tier. So basically the quarterback 13 through 18 or whatever it was. I don't know how many numbers there are, but it was the group of veterans with contracts and production. And I kind of grouped him along with Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott. So I think he finds himself in there somewhere. It's just basically preference amongst those guys. Jordan Love a little bit younger than some of those other guys. And, so there's a bit of a runway for added value for him going forward where he could maybe, if he's prolific again, it has another top 13, 12, somewhere in there, quarterback season, he could vault himself into that sort of tier just above that, right? That sort of younger tier with Herbert, Nick, Stroud, Caleb. Like, it's not off the table for him to elevate himself. So I think Jordan Love's an interesting buy low right now, as I've done twice this offseason.
Yeah. In the Underground League, just, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something, I traded Matt Wiggins, Geno Smith, and Jalen Waddle for Jordan Love and Elijah Arroyo, right? So I sacrificed a little bit on my wide receiver 4, but I got a tight end. I was tight end needy, and then I was like, let me just get off this older quarterback for a younger one who's got the same level of let's say prolificity.
Ooh. Just one up on me.
Prolificism.
Not casual Kuvatakis any longer. Not today.
No doubt, Mr. Pinky's up aristocrat.
Back in the hizzy.
Fuck.
Joe Quaves.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the range of outcomes is super wide. I find that I've been just kind of hesitating because you guys know that I kind of like to dig into some like the player take stuff, right? And if I'm looking at some of the benchmarks that I would like him to hit, like I don't necessarily see him being like a 70% completion guy. Don't know if he's going to be like a year after year necessarily like 30 touchdown guy. He had 25 last year, 32 the year before, so he can do it. But if I'm leaning one way, I'm leaning towards the fact that 2 seasons ago was probably one of his better touchdown seasons. And then he just doesn't really give you anything in the way of meaningful running. So I don't know. I think it's got to be a perfect storm for him to have everything come together. And I think one of those perfect storms that has to shake out is some of these wide receiver weapons panning out, guys. I think it's a good time to maybe get into those guys, unless anybody wants to touch back on
good.
Jordan Love here. But
I just want to say one thing. I think he's firmly in the category. We talk about Burrow, Prescott, Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. Like all these dudes fluctuate year to year based on their efficiency and primarily their touchdown rate, right? So these are all dudes. Like this is like how quarterback drafting worked before the rushing quarterback that could also throw came into the equation. And that's why the late round quarterback strategy, made JJ Zacharyson famous, right? Because like, listen, just take these other dudes because they could vault up to this, this section, right? And instead of those dudes being able to get to the top 5 nowadays, they can get up to the top 7 or 8, right? All the dudes in this pocket passer category fluctuate based on TD rate. And we don't know when that's going to hit. All we want is dudes that can have those spike years to get them up to the upper end of that range. And that's good enough for your QB2. That's good enough for your QB1. You want just like 3 of those guys if you don't have one of these dudes with the rushing floor. So the game is still the same as it was 20 years ago, except for the range has gotten smaller, but we're still playing the same game with these dudes. It's just touchdown rate. And so he's one of those dudes. If he has this big spike in touchdown rate, he can get up to the top 8 to 12. And that's all we're looking for from a dude like Jordan Love. We're not expecting him to be any better than that.
Remember this, though. I've got to mention at least one thing, because I know that, Trav, you mentioned something about the touchdown rate. You'd be surprised to know that his touchdown rate was actually better in 2024 than it was in 2023. He was actually...
They ran the ball more.
And he also missed 2 games, left too early. The Week 18 game, he only played a little bit, and he left another game only playing about half the game, didn't play well. So he had 2 sort of stinkers in there that you almost need to throw out of his average. So, he kind of missed 4 games, basically. Long story short, he was 5.9% touchdown rate, 5.5 the year before. His interception rate did go up. That was always the thing that I was afraid with him. He went from 1.9 to 2.6, 2.6 unacceptable, 11 picks in that shorter sample size as well. So his completion percentage was basically the same, 64 in 2023, 63 the next year. Success rate up a percent. Yards per attempt actually went from 7.2 to 8.0. So he was more efficient, if anything. His quarterback rating, 96.1 to 96.7, like really the same. His QBR, 62, went up to 69.3. He actually played better in 2024, masked a little bit by the injury in a couple of games that he sort of left early. So I actually think that, it's probably a great buy low considering that his 2023 season is probably close to who he is.
Well put. No, I like that, digging into some of that efficiency. So let's talk about these guys who can help him maintain that efficiency. And that would be the receivers. This offense, especially the passing offense, runs through the wide receivers. But I think the problem is that there's no clear alpha in this wide receiver group at all. We have wanted it to be Jayden Reed, or I personally have wanted it to be Jayden Reed. We, for a minute, thought it was going to be Christian Watson when he was drafted, but that hasn't panned out. There was a couple of people that even thought it might be Dontavian Wicks a couple seasons ago, but that hasn't panned out either. So what do we make of this group, guys, that has no clear alpha? How do we know where to confidently attach Jax? It's the hardest one to make sense of. It's one of the hardest receiver rooms to make sense of in the entire NFL.
I mean, I would say, let's put it this way. I think if you're a Matthew Golden fan, you should be happy, right? The one thing that we would have felt is that if any of the wide receivers that we really liked landed here, we'd have been a lot happier. And the fact that a wide receiver that we were a little bit more hesitant on landed here sort of muddies the waters. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I actually think Matthew Golden being drafted to this team adds more of the sameness. Christian Watson, who we've criticized and we wanted to be the breakout dude for as much as we've wanted him to be that, kind of on a advanced metrics standpoint, in terms of yards per route run last season, he was at 2.65. That's a really solid number. Now, granted, he was hurt, and that's kind of the thing, is that he's always hurt. He led the team in air yards, and of course, he got hurt. I don't know if it was week 17 or week 18, but anyways, he's going to miss.
He's going to miss a lot.
He's going to miss a lot of this year. So Matthew Golden, in my view, is probably soaking up those 234 routes that Watson ran last year. I think Wicks is probably going to lose some. He's incredible at targets per out run at 0.3 targets per out run, but his yards per out run is 1.67. Just a wildly inefficient player who's really good at drawing targets, like this weird anomaly.
He gets open.
Yeah, exactly. And Romeo Doubs is like we were talking about Palmer last week about Josh Palmer last week. I mean, Romeo Doubs is basically similar to a Josh Palmer, right? Where it's just like, dude's good enough to start for a lot of teams and not good enough to draw a bunch of targets or be super efficient with them. So I kind of default to who's the most talented guy in this receiver room is Jayden Reed. It's been Jayden Reed. Now, granted, his slot percentage has been in the 70s, which is problematic because he comes off the field in two receiver sets. But I tend to think that they're going to see that too, and they're going to just decide that we need to have our best player on the field. And those two players are Watson and Reed, and Watson's gone. Golden's coming in, but I kind of think they need to lean on Reed a little bit more. I'm banking on the fact that I need to lean on Reed a little bit more. And Reed has proven to be the most efficient, most explosive player in this offense. And not only that, I mean, guys, we were poo-pooing Golden all offseason, right? So we're not just going to sit here and now say, this wide receiver who landed in a good spot is now a great value, right? What do we always say? Targets are earned, right? He's going to have to earn these targets. I'm sorry. I don't believe he's going to do it based on his college production profile. I don't think he's a target earner. I think he's like the perfect Packers receiver to do exactly what Wicks and Watson and Doubs do. And I think the only star here still is Reed. So, in best ball, kind of invest in a bunch of them if you're going to build the Jordan Love stack. But Reed is the dude you want. He has been the dude you want. And I think he's the only one I would count on.
So that last take is the take. Jaden Reed's the guy you want. I'm still trying to figure out this whole, what do we make of the guys who come off the field in 2 wide receiver sets? Still trying to figure out what I want to do with those guys for like the long term. But Jaden Reed's still the guy that I want. I'm like you, Joe. I want him to get more flanker snaps this season. He only had 4 targets in 2 wide sets last year, 0 receptions. So not good whatsoever. But I think it's a little bit different for Golden. I think that I'm a little bit kicking myself for not taking some of those late shots on Golden when he was falling behind like the mid-second, because I think if we look at what's happening here, his path to being the day one X receiver is pretty clear. Like Christian Watson, not going to be there for maybe most of this season. So I am kind of taking him off the docket as far as evaluating what this is going to look like for this year and maybe even long-term, right? We don't know what his future is. They've invested a lot in trying to jam him into that wide receiver 1 spot, and it hasn't worked out. So they subsequently took Matthew Golden with the first round pick, 19th overall, I think he was. And to me, that earns him targets off the hop, despite anything that he's doing on the field, Joe. So that's where I might differ a little bit. And I know we were dogging Golden.
I would say,
so this is
I
almost
would
feels
correct
like
that statement, though. I would say it
say.
earns him playtime. Targets are earned on the field.
Right. Correct. But they are starving for someone else to get targets and actually do something with it. And I think he is a lot different than these other guys. Because if you look at Wicks, like he's big. And like we said, he gets open, sure, but he doesn't do anything with the targets that come his way. And if we look at Dobbs, he is like, to me, he's like the Samaje Perine of wide receivers. He is just clogging that hole up and making it shitty for those other guys who are trying to get through on this depth chart. He took like 95 targets or something last year. And I think that's just way too much for a guy who's not dynamic and not doing anything special. And so I think Matthew Golden was brought there to take up all of that volume. And ideally, if he gets it, I think he has a profile that can be pretty explosive on that. So it's not like a anti-Jaden Reed take or anything. It's more of just, I'm seeing the path for Matthew Golden, guys, as much as I don't want to admit it. And I think the thing with him is that if he hits, it's going to be a fucking big hit.
Agree.
And I kind of wish I was part of that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be, unfortunately, which is what it is. But I think the path is so there for him for that. And mentioning Jordan Love, talking about LaFleur, like if we believe in LaFleur, then I think LaFleur can probably get this guy open. And if you get this guy open, he's going to have an easier time taking those targets on, So I'm not like stamping the table or planting a flag in Matthew Golden. I'm just coming off of the absolute dogging that we did throughout the entire spring. So I don't know. That's where I'm sitting. I don't know if that lands.
Yeah,
Jax,
I think
what do
that
you think?
does land. I mean, I think I was fairly clear with Matthew Golden. I said he was a 2nd round sort of dynasty rookie draft asset. I still think that. I still think there's the downside because of the profile, but the upside because of the opportunity. So I think you guys are both sort of displaying both of those points of view, which are both correct. They're both correct because we don't know the outcome yet. This could be Devontae Adams 2.0, or it could be just it could be Christian Watson 2.0. We don't know who Matthew Golden is. So for that reason, I'm betting against it a little bit when he was getting steamed into the late first of rookie drafts. Right now, his ADP, according to in Dynasty Startups, is around 83, 84. It's a little bit rich, but I mean, we talked about this in the 8th round. When you're able to get Luther Burden, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins, Matthew Golden in the 8th round of a startup, I'm happy to take whichever one of these guys falls to me in that type of value, right? And if it's Matthew Golden in the 8th round, I would absolutely smash that home, especially if some of the other guys were gone. I mean, maybe we should have diversified a little bit more, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take Matthew Golden over him, but he's still a value at that spot. And I don't look down at people who draft him at that value and say that's a bad pick. Jaden Reed going right around 110. The other guys are all basically 200 or more. Dobbs is 197, Wicks 230, Savion Williams is next, Christian Watson. Like all those guys are very free in startups. I look, as much as we don't love Dobbs, or how you say his stupid name, you know,
I always wanted it to be
Dubes.
Dubes. It should have been Dubes. That's way more fun. Romeo smoking Dubes.
He
I
got
always wanted to call
72
him.
targets, which was, look, they had
Yeah.
there was 4 players with 70 targets, 76, 75, 72, 70. He had 72 targets, but the other guy that got 70 or more all played 17 games. He only played 13 games. So he really was the target leader, was Romeo Doubs. You know, on that team, if he makes his way back, I think in 2 wide receiver sets, it's Doubs and Golden. So I think the value, as much as it pains me to say, is probably Romeo Doubs. It's not Dontavian Wicks, who was not very effective once he caught the ball and terribly ineffective actually catching it. So, you know, his catch percentage was terrible. The drop percentage was off the charts. He's just not nuanced enough to be trusted, and especially when they invest in a first-round wide receiver after already investing in wide receivers with Reed and Watson the years before. I got to think Wicks is the odd man out, and, you know, it's going to be Reed, Doubs, and Golden going forward. So yeah, I think Doubs is actually the value here.
All right, so I got a couple things to say, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I just do want to point this out. Like in our Discord, some conversation started around Matthew Golden, right?
Yeah.
And I chimed in and I said, listen, he's got the physical profile of Henry Ruggs.
Yep.
And the analytical profile of Adonai Mitchell.
That's correct.
Both those guys ended up being busts for one reason or another. Adonai, it's still too early to tell, but he's looks like the wide receiver 4 on the Colts, even though it didn't seem like he had too many dudes in front of him. He couldn't beat out, Pierce, right? Ruggs, was a situational deep threat and very good at that, and a very useful real life player, but not a great fantasy asset. Now, if you combine those two, like maybe it's actually a really good fantasy player, but everything the analytics tells us is that he's not. So that's kind of where I land with him. And it's just not a place I want to be placing my bet. Now, granted, I took him in the middle of the second round when he fell to me there because, the process dictates that you do, but I'm not lamenting the shares that I missed in the early second over dudes that had better analytical profiles. I agree with you, Jax. I think it's Dobbs. And I think Dobbs, like I said, he's Palmer, right? You're just your last flex spot. You could do worse than plugging Dobbs into that spot. You're not going to expect huge spike weeks. You're just going to get solid production out of that. Reed's the dude you're going to get real spike weeks out of. We've seen that. And if he sees an uptick in volume based on his analytics, if he sees an uptick in volume, this dude's a league winner.
Yes.
Right. So like that's kind of what we're banking on with Reed. And those are the guys I want to place my bets on.
Yeah.
And then Watson, God damn it, dude. The dude just can't stay healthy. But if he could, I don't know, his underlying metrics look pretty darn good too. I don't think it's happening this year, and it kind of sucks, but like it's kind of this jumble, and Reed's, we're back to where we started. We're just like Reed's the only one I actually want to place bets on, and the other dudes are just kind of fillers.
Yeah, the other other wide receivers after the first two are so cheap that just take your pick. It could be Wicks. I think we drafted Wicks in one of these startups. It's like, I don't know. I guess I'll just take Wicks. Like, it's one of those things that, like, if especially, I mean, we don't need to get into a roster construction conversation right now, but a very, very quick point is that basically we're smashing wide receivers early and often to make sure that we have as many elite dominant wide receivers as possible, and then shifting to backup quarterbacks, upside tight ends a little bit, and running backs to round it out. Like, block your nose and pick Miles Sanders, block your nose and pick Damian Pierce or something. I don't know, like really sick running backs later are always a better bet than these wide receivers late. But actually Wicks and Doubs are one of those where it's like, if you just kind of, you look and you're like, I've got a lot of wide receivers up top. I've been taking Jax's advice and nailing all these quarterbacks and running backs and whatnot, but gosh, I could use maybe 1 or 2 more wide receivers on this roster other than the 3 starters and the 3 flex. And I have 1 bench guy, maybe 1 or 2 more guys. That's all you want in wide receivers. Dobbs and Wicks are the type of players that you can throw a dart on late.
Yeah. I think that's right. I don't typically on my builds, I don't bank on depth at wide receiver, like middling
Right.
depth. All I do is aim for upside. It's kind of the same at the running back position too. It's like get your starters and then don't hold these middling dudes as backups who are going to tap out as freaking middling flex plays, right? Just aim for dudes that if they hit, they're going to hit big. And so, Trav, you said if Golden hits, he's going to hit big. And so I think that's actually the bull case, right? Right now as a rookie, if Golden hits, he's going to hit big, so I don't mind having him.
Right.
I just, all the data and everything I've seen tells me he's not going to do that.
You're spot on. You're spot on totally. And I think this is almost maybe a me being ready to be wrong on the dislike for Golden. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it is. And I've been really pondering Jayden Reed's ceiling with some of that stuff we've been talking about. And so I'm going back to the table on that. But what that's kind of caused me to say is if we doubt Jayden Reed's ceiling, then why not take the kind of, so to speak, re-roll on Matthew Golden as the upside wide receiver in the Green Bay Packers offense. You know what I mean? So I think everything you said was spot on, though. I am definitely into the analytics that say no, but I'm just saying if he falls a little bit past ADP, definitely
recall, and I'm sorry to just keep beating this Green Bay wide receiver dead horse here, but we're still going here. Remember, after the Packers drafted Golden, Reed's agent, who I can't remember who it is, but Reed's agent wanted to have a talk with the team about his role on this offense moving forward, right? So he's the squeaky wheel of the offseason. I think Dobbs had his meltdown in the middle of the season last year, if you'll recall, and he got suspended for a game and missed the game, came back, scored 2 touchdowns in his next game back. But he had his little midseason meltdown. I think there's a fight internally about who's the alpha on this team. And, Josh Jacobs went and said there isn't one and we need one, right? But Reed's camp basically was complaining after they took a wide receiver in round 1. So I think there's an expectation from him that he's going to see an increase in usage, and that's all this dude needs to ascend into wide receiver 2, maybe low end wide receiver 1 based on his underlying metrics with the rushing, stats. So anyways, we can stop on that, but I just don't want that point to be lost in terms of offseason storylines.
So we're going to be real quick on the rest of the Packers, okay? Tucker Kraft. All of that stuff that we were talking about there tells me that this target totem pole is a little bit in flux. Jax, I saw 85% snaps last year from Tucker Kraft across the season, which was a top 10 mark of all tight ends. What does that tell you? And what do you make of Tucker Kraft and how he's going to insert himself into this target tree?
I mean, clearly he won the Tucker Kraft v. Luke Musgrave, steel cage match battle. And he earned 70 targets last year. And, that could go up. Like I said, there was, Dubs and Wicks and Reed. Look, if they consolidate things a little bit and they sort of prioritize Tucker Kraft, it's definitely possible. And I could see him going either way. I wouldn't bet on him taking a huge step up, but I'm okay with your optimism for Tucker Kraft, and I can understand why you like him so much, Trav.
Yeah, man. And I think I've been ready to take this leap since before last season with him, so I don't think that's necessarily a secret.
That's true. I just want to point out to the audience, me and Trav had an argument about Kraft versus Musgrave last offseason. I was camp Musgrave, Trav was camp Kraft, and
he wins.
Trav won.
Wasn't looking for a victory lap because I still kind of like Luke Musgrave too, Joe. But anyway, I'm not taking him over one Tucker Kraft, but he's a young tight end, so might as well throw him on the bottom of a roster. But looking at Tucker's 2024 season, nothing jumps off the page like crazy. He was a tight end 15 per game, tight end 10 on the season overall, 7th best in yards per route run. Those are only the real things that kind of jumped out. But what stood out to me, guys, was that he was really outdoing his expectation. He was a tight end 4 in expected fantasy points differential. Sorry, that was another tough one for me to get out. I realized listening to this show, guys, that I kind of stutter a little bit, and that's a hard realization, but I'm going to carry on. And just if you look at Tucker Kraft, he was outperforming his expected fantasy points by 2.8 points per game. So that tells me two things. He's really good, and maybe the volume he was getting last year wasn't that great. So I think there's some room for that volume to get a little bit better. Maybe if these receivers are a little bit more stable around him. So I'm ready to take that leap with Tucker. And I don't think like at the tight end position, these kind of back of the top 10 guys are huge leaps, because I don't see him being like a top 5 tight end, but I think he's just going to solidify himself from a dynasty landscape as like your Sam Laporta light for the next 3 to 5 seasons. And I'm down for that. But that's all I got on Tucker. Let's talk a little bit about Josh Jacobs. And Joe, I'm going to start with you because you are, of course, the Raiders fan. So you have lots of Josh Jacobs experience. What are you feeling about his standing over the next few years? Because to me, there is a lot of mileage on that engine. And I'm pretty scared of a breakdown happening soon. But what's your take on that? Because he still was chugging along last year. Absolute bell cow. So good on him.
Yeah, the thing about Josh Jacobs is he's a really good running back. He's never been super impressive from an athleticism standpoint, right? What he's excelled at is just being good at the position. He's almost like the Keenan Allen of running backs, right? Where it's like athleticism isn't how he wins. He wins with vision and just know-how. And so I actually think he's the kind of dude that's going to continue to succeed for a while. And I don't know, the bigger question I think for most is like, who is the RB2 you want to target on Green Bay? Is it Lloyd? Is it Brooks? Is it, why am I blanking on the other dude's name? But
no idea.
But whenever, for as long as Jacobs has been in the league, he has commanded just a bunch of targets by being a pro's pro, knowing his assignments, and I think just coaches trust him. I mean, you look at a dude like LaFleur, who always, even with guys like Aaron Jones, deployed a 2-back backfield and a very split carry, very, very split carries amongst the backfield. And once he got his hands on a dude like Jacobs, he was like, why would I take this guy off the field? So like Jacobs is the profile of a running back who I would want to bet against. But knowing who he is as a player and what he does well and how he succeeds, I'm not betting against him. I'm not betting on him either, to be fair. But I'm not taking a hard stance either way. I think he's just going to keep doing the Josh Jacobs thing, which is a damn good running back.
I did want to touch on Tucker Kraft real quick before we go, because I love your your take on Jacobs. There's not much to say there. I really think he's by the way, I think you were looking for Emmanuel Wilson, but the real name you should have been searching for was Savion Williams.
I like that one. I like that
one. He is a running back. Let's see him go. I don't think he's going to have any fantasy, utility really. It just doesn't strike me as a player that's going to get on the field enough to matter. But when he does get on the field, this is an arcade game player where you're just like, dude, move Savion to running, like 100% in Madden. I'm moving him to running back. It's just all I want to tell you. So anyway, you know what I mean? Like it's 100% move I'm making. So I don't know what the hell they're thinking if they don't do it. But
he's Cordero. He's Cordero Patterson.
It's so clear. So, Tucker Kraft in college, just the profile was 2 yards per run, 238, 232 in his 3 seasons in college. And, he had pretty good yak numbers. But when he got to the NFL last year, he was 8.8 yards of yak per reception. He was 14.1 yards per reception as well. Like he was really good. He had 7 touchdowns. He made big plays, and he made big plays when Luke Musgrave did not. I know he only had 10 targets or whatever, but still, Luke Musgrave did not make a big play. Tucker Kraft was making them over and over again. So I do think that's another reason why I really like him. Look, we've talked about this a million times at the tight end position. It's why I love Kittle after his rookie year. You're looking for players who can make big plays. Tucker Kraft can do that. So he is definitely worth a swing because all you really care about is either top 4 or 5 tight end, or it doesn't really matter. Kraft has that swing upside.
Yeah. I mean, Trav called him poor man Sam Laporta, which I think is
I said Laporta light.
Fine, fair enough. Laporta is a Spanish door, right? Tucker Kraft is American cheese.
Yep. Very nice.
American cheese. Nice. That must be something he puts in his lunch pail.
Yeah, absolutely puts that in his lunch pail. Oh, Tucker Kraft is a lunch pail name if you ever heard one. Yeah, he's the man. And Jax, love that big play stuff because you don't see that too much out of tight ends. 5 of his 7 touchdowns were actually outside of 20 yards to goal. So only 2 of his 7 were in or were
There you
red
go.
zone targets, and the rest of the 5 were
Dude's
20
a
plus
playmaker.
yards.
Dude's a playmaker.
Let's move on.
That's fat with a PH, boys. That's
PH
fat with
fat.
a PH. So let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
Of course, this offense is looking like it's got some newness around it and some more excitement around it after being what's seemed like a bit stuck in the mud the past couple of years. We're going to start with Dak Prescott, guys, because last time we saw him, he played 8 games last year in 2024. He operated through those 8 games as the quarterback, 22 in points per game. Pretty lackluster offense that he was a part of course. But now, guys, now he's got George Pickens alongside Ceedee Lamb. He's got what looks like it's going to be an absolute dog shit of a run game. And it looks like Oronde Dakota is going to be slinging it this year, boys. So with that refurbished Dak Prescott, like what type of season-long finishes, Joe, are we going to be expecting out of him over the next couple of seasons? And Jax, you come right in after that.
Well, Prescott, I mean, in the same range we just talked about Love being in, where he's this pocket passer that fluctuates up and down, right? 2 seasons ago, he finished as the quarterback 3. Last season, he was terrible and got hurt, but even when he was playing, it was bad. And now it's like, oh yeah, he's the quarterback 19 or something, right? The truth is he's somewhere in the middle. This is exactly the buy low, sell high type of thing we're talking about. When these guys peak, you sell. When they bottom, you buy, right?
Yeah.
This is where you buy CJ Stroud. This is where you buy Trevor Lawrence. This is where you buy Dak Prescott, because you know he's going to regress to the mean positively and land somewhere in the middle. And we know his upside is he actually has crested top 5.
Right.
And he's got the offensive coordinator now as a head coach that he did that under. And they just added a great wide receiver that does something different that nobody else has done for them for him in the last couple of years. So like he's a very, very, very strong bounce back candidate and a very, very strong buy low. You said, how is he going to be in the next couple of seasons? I don't know, but I'm betting on Dak and I'm buying Dak to not be the QB 19 or wherever the hell he is right now, because he's better than that. I don't think he's a top 3. I think he belongs somewhere in the 10 to 12 range, but we can get top 5 seasons out of this dude, especially in the right offense, which he has with that no running game to speak of, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you want to talk about a dynasty startup strategy of circling Dak and saying, hey, listen, my quarterback 2, we do it all the time, right? We just circle Dak and say, okay. And here's the beauty of circling Dak.
and Stafford, let's go.
I was going to say, if you go with a quarterback early, I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to say, if you go with a quarterback early and you're targeting Dak as your quarterback 2, if for whatever reason you miss him, you've got the parachute of Matthew Stafford right behind him. Like at some point you can just be like, well, that's fine. I'll just take Stafford. If Dak miss Dak, that's fine. It's the same thing, at least for this year, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Lean into Dak Prescott as your targeted quarterback 2, who you can just wait for all these other quarterbacks to go off the board. You can literally plan it. If you had to trade up to get him, you could do so. Like super easy to do, because he's going to be the last one of that group. He consistently goes at the backside of that, you know, behind Penix, behind, you know, Cam Ward, behind Goff, behind Baker, behind all these guys. He's going as quarterback 19 and almost always does. He seldom steams up past there. And so you can just get yourself Dak Prescott in a startup with very, very little pain.
Yeah, mid to back of the 6th round. And like, if we're waiting on quarterback and we're trying to get both of those guys, like Dak and Stafford, if you can stack elite playmakers in the first 5 rounds of your draft and then risk it for the biscuit and get Dak in the 6th and then start your quarterback build, I think you're laughing. So I think that's really well put on Dak and major value, as much as it pains me to say as an Eagles fan, as much as it pains me to say, boys. But let's talk about the fun stuff that Dak's going to be airing it out too. And that would be Ceedee Lamb and George Pickens. So Ceedee, I think we can knock off the list a little bit easier because he is a clear-cut top 5 dynasty wide receiver. Lock basically for 130 plus targets, lock to probably be at least a top 10 wide receiver by season's end, provided he stays healthy. Anything to add on Ceedee? Any holes to poke by any chance, fellas?
I just the only thing I would say for Ceedee is I think things are going to get better for him with the addition of George Pickens. I think this outside presence is actually going to open things up for him a little bit more. Don't
Yeah.
forget, Ferguson missed parts of last year too. I mean, they were really depleted. Not to mention, Dak was gone, right? So Ceedee fell off last year and still put up a very
Yeah.
very useful wide receiver one season. So like this dude's probably entrenched, as you said, top five. I'd say probably. It's so hard. There's so many of these super elite guys, but yeah. I think he's like locked in as like a top 3 or 4, which is splitting hairs. But
Yeah.
yes, wheels up, and that's almost become a cliche. But boy, is it the case for Ceedee.
Yeah, and actually,
We'll stay up.
Yeah,
We'll stay
he's
up
high
with
wheeling.
Ceedee.
Ceedee goat.
Yeah, he's so good. You mentioned George Pickens. Not only does George Pickens help Ceedee, but he also helps Dak, because I mean, Dak,
Yes.
the best George Pickens that he's had probably ever in that role specifically was probably Michael Gallup. I'm trying to think if he had a better one of those,
Nope.
outside
That's
X.
it.
But Amari was a
not
Z.
quite. Amari
Yeah,
wasn't
he was
really that.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
more
he
of a
wasn't
mid Z guy. So that outside guy who you can just throw it up when he's covered, he's still open type of player. He's a dog out there, and he's a run blocker. Like Pickens is a DAWG all caps dog. So yeah, I think he opens things up for Ceedee, because when they start to single high, I was talking about this on Undrafted with Bodiford about Justin Fields couldn't throw this one-on-one coverage ball to George Pickens when it was there. Like, yeah, he might be covered, but if it's one-on-one with a guy like George Pickens on the outside, the ball has to go there. It's just the way it has to go. Well, they're not going to be able to necessarily play that way with George Pickens, because Dak can make that throw. And so, yeah, it puts a lot of strain on the defense. Obviously, we'll get there. I'm not so sure about the running game and what the hell they're going to do there. I've got some takes ready to go for that. That's actually the fun stuff. But I think George Pickens now is firmly entrenched as the wide receiver 2. I think we've seen what this role is in Dallas with a player like Michael Gallup. Even Tolbert, who is not a good NFL player, was receiving targets. So I think at this particular point, I'd be penciling in Pickens for 100 or more targets if he stays healthy. Just very, very simply said, 100 targets, and maybe some upside from there. Certainly touchdown upside as well.
Definitely upside on that. Could be like 110, 120. These two guys are going to be such a fucking target funnel, guys. Like I think they're going to have more than 50% of this team's targets. If you look at like the average team in 17 games now, 600 pass attempts per year. That's like 300 targets is pretty 500 hefty, but you know what
600
I mean,
attempts, there's usually 550 targets, there's throwaways, etc.
Yeah,
so
right,
call it
yeah,
550 if they get like you say 250-ish. I think that's absolutely in play. 250 to 300 for sure.
Right, real quick. Turpin last year got 48 targets. Cooks got 51 targets. There's 99 targets right there. Right. Then Tolbert got 75 targets.
That's what I'm saying. It's Tolbert 75.
Yeah. Tolbert.
I don't think we're questioning the volume though. Like I think we kind of know the volume's going to be there, but they brought him in to be that. There's not another pass catcher that's going to like take volume away from him, because these guys are so
he's
defined,
playing the Tolbert role though. That's what he's playing. So 75 targets is really the floor, because Tolbert is the floor. Trust me. And
probably playing more of a Dez Bryant role.
But I'm just saying, it's the outside X that Tolbert played all year, that even he was able to earn 75 targets from running those routes, where now it's going to be those routes with purpose too, because they're going to be looking like, dude, let's fire up some Pickens on this one. You know what I mean? They weren't saying that about Tolbert. It was just like, I guess I got to throw it to fucking Tolbert. Exactly. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well put. These guys are going to be hogs, and I think like top 12 alongside Ceedee is honestly in George Pickens's range of outcomes. He's just that volatile, that the volatility could go on the high end to make us.
Yeah, he went from a low volume passing game to a high volume passing game. And not only did he go to that, but he also went to a concentrated high volume passing game. So really, George Pickens was a huge winner in this move. If anybody's still valuing him where he was, or thinks that he's the second fiddle and sort of still has him valued at, wide receiver like 36 in Dynasty or something like that, I think he's higher than that. I think you got to start looking at him Not at T. Higgins level, not at all. But I'm just saying closer to that than where he was before.
I
Like
agree.
he could approach that, is my point, right? That's sort of the ceiling outcome is
Totally
where we're
could.
like, wow, this is a T. Higgins type player in this offense.
Top
Yeah.
20?
For
Yeah,
sure.
could be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Could be,
totally.
yep.
So before we move off of this pass catching game, the real question, the most fun question of this target
How many
tree,
lunch pails?
are you guys still fucking sleeping on Turd Ferguson? Because the market's not, guys. But I feel like you guys are. Turd Ferguson's going as the Dynasty tight end 15 right now, ahead of Pat Freiermuth, ahead of Mason Taylor, ahead of Evan Ingram. We got to take note of that because I'm more on that side for Turd than you guys are, and I think the market's with me, boys. Joe, what's that face? You're making faces
Well,
again. Damn
I'm
it!
sorry. I can't help it. I actually I'm not done with Pickens yet, guys. I'm sorry. All right, Pickens is 24.
Of course you're not.
Pickens
Carry
is
on.
24 years old. George Pickens, and granted, he's got 1 year left on his rookie deal, so he needs to get re-signed. George Pickens or Xavier Worthy?
That's about where it's at for me.
That is right
George
about where
Pickens
it's
or
at.
DJ Moore?
Fuck.
George Pickens.
Yeah. George Pickens or Roma Dunze?
George Pickens.
Roma, you're
Dunze.
so good. This is so true. This is what I'm saying. Like that's
I
when
I know. He's not being valued there.
No.
That's my point.
And they're not gonna let him. Like, what did they trade for Pickens again?
I don't remember, but I think that Pickens in Dynasty is worth a late first right now.
I think so too, and I think I would sell him for that because still acknowledging the fact that it could go disastrously wrong because he's a fucking head
he might be a
case.
crazy person. Yeah.
And-
yes. Well, no, he is a crazy person.
And they might just decide not to re-sign him, and he could just be in that like bouncing around on 1 to 2 year deals, maybe not quite Martavis levels.
So on my
deal.
rankings, Joe, just to give you a little eye in, I have Odunze at 20, Addison 21. I'm thinking about moving Devontae Smith down from 22, Xavier Worthy 23, Zay Flowers 24, Jalen Waddle 25, then George Pickens. And
I think I want Pickens over all of them. Yeah.
That's my point is like he's in there. So I'm, and he's moved up to there where he was further behind. Like, I had him behind DK Metcalf. Now I think he's comfortably ahead of DK Metcalf, age, etc. So, right. So it's he's ahead of DJ Moore. And I even have him, as you point out, with the early second round guys, the Jaden Higgins, the Luther Burdens. I do have him ahead of that little tier of Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden, which
right.
I like those two guys. So, he's right there in the mid 20s and not back, like I said, in the late 30s where he was sort of a late second round rookie pick value. I think you're right on the 1-2 turn type of value for him right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
we're moving.
I'm sorry.
We
got to talk about Turd.
Well, we don't have to go too long on Turd, so just give me a quick one. Let's talk
Turd.
about that running back muck pile.
We should talk about Turd briefly. I think he's going to be fine this year. I actually think it's going to be easier for him than it's ever been with the addition of Pickens, and he's going to get all the dumb off stuff. He's going to be like, I don't know, Zach Ertz level. He's probably going to be somewhere around tight end 10. He's going to get like 10.9 to 10.8 points per game without many spikes, but just very reliable. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a spike week here and there, but if he gets hurt, I'm very interested in Luke Schoonmaker, right? Like, it's just the same role. It's the same dude. And that's kind of what,
You had to.
I did. You? Actually, Schoonmaker's way more athletic. I'm way more excited. If Schoonmaker gets this role, I'll be pumped.
First of all, I think the bigger picture here, and you're missing the whole thing here, is that I think the Dallas tight end room has the best names of all time. Luke Schoonmaker, first of all, is pretty good. The next guy is Brevin Span Ford, hyphenated name. There's a guy named Rivaldo Fairweather. There's a guy named Rivaldo Fairweather on their depth chart.
You're yanking me off right now.
Yeah. There's a guy named Princeton Fant. Like, this is unbelievable. John Stevens Jr.
Another one.
There's a John Stevens Sr. somewhere that's like, that's my boy, John Stevens Jr.
And he's carrying my lunch pail. He's carrying my lunch
I don't
pail.
even know if he's got a lunch pail. That's the thing. Like, we know nothing about these people. It could be lunch pail makers for all we know. We have no idea.
They could have the Hot Wheels lunchbox for all
Could
we know.
be.
I will say I have an embarrassing amount of Schoonmaker in my portfolio. He's I think on almost every team, just because I know that Ferguson, if I'm not mistaken, is on the last year of his contract. I know Schoonmaker's the dude next year. So my advice to our listeners is just go get Schoonmaker for very cheap, and hope that he's Turd Ferguson plus next year.
Wait, was Schoonmaker a second round pick? Am I reading that right?
He
was definitely a day 2 pick. He was definitely a day 2 pick, and he's got a 9+ RAS score. Bro, I'm telling you, Schoonmaker. And not only that, I tweeted about this last year when Ferguson was hurt. I was like, who else is excited to play Luke Schoonmaker today? Right? And I don't know, I got like 5 likes, but I played him, and you know what he put up? A Jake Ferguson stat line.
Okay, we're talking about these running backs who spent too much time on Schoonmaker, Ferguson, Stevens.
Go by
Schoonmaker. Schoonmaker was drafted in the second round. That is crazy.
That's unbelievable.
I did not know that.
That is
unbelievable.
I am more
this
interested.
Is why I'm
now.
here, guys.
I am
this
more
is why
interested
I'm here.
now.
I guess you got to go get Schoonmaker.
Okay, so the running
back. I did not know this.
The running backs, boys.
Mm-hmm.
The running backs. So
speaking of blue balls, huh?
My kind of take, my take on them is that where there is no clear efficiency, I am, as you say, Jax, I am plugging my nose and I'm pressing the button on the volume. And for me, the volume is Javonte Williams. As gross as it is to say, I think at this point, it looks like he might get the lion's share, but it's very hard to pin down. So what are you doing, Jax? It looks like you are scoffing maybe at that a little bit. Maybe not quite a scoff, maybe a balk.
You did notice that I did fold Miles Sanders into a Jordan Love trade. Didn't you notice that I did that? Yes.
You did.
I'm in a league where I saw Scott Connor trade. What the hell was it? It was something that I did not think he should have traded for Miles Sanders. It doesn't even matter. He made a trade for Miles Sanders. I was like, that's bold. I like this. What is going on? Maybe I'm missing the boat. And then I just said, wait a second. He kind of overpaid for Miles Sanders. I don't even think you need to do that. I think you can just get Miles Sanders. People hate Miles Sanders. Nobody likes Miles Sanders. 0.0 people outside of Chalk like Miles Sanders. Only Chalk is the last Miles Sanders fan on the planet. And even he doesn't like Miles Sanders. But yeah, we used to love Miles Sanders when he came out. But dude, I think he's free. I'll take Javonte and Jaden Blue. I think they go back to back, as you point out, basically in startups. So if you want them, you can sort of fashion a way. Look, in startups, you can always get picks where you kind of want them. So you could get 2 picks pretty close to one another somewhere where they go and smash them both and get Miles Sanders late. Like, it is very, very easy to secure the entire Dallas backfield. I don't know which one it will be. It may be none of them. It could be one of those backfields that ends up being just like one of those gross committees that nobody ever really does anything. You never know who to play. That's also possible and in the range of outcomes. But it's also possible that they just lean on one of the guys for a while and he's good and playable and startable and he's an RB2 and it's Miles Sanders for nothing. So yes, just get Miles Sanders on your team because he's the cheapest one of them in ambiguous backfield. The lesson, as always, is
take the cheapest one.
Bingo.
I would just like to say that Rico Dowdle was, if I'm not mistaken, an RB2 last year.
Different offensive coordinator.
I know,
but still, this is just, he was literally in points per game. He was the RB24. Man, I barely squeaked that in. I just pulled it up. 12 points. There were a couple games he had to give Ezekiel Elliott a piggyback through the hole too. So that was weird.
yeah. But Rico Dowdle, who's nobody's idea of even, I don't want to crap on Rico Dowdle too bad.
Right.
But he's a guy. He's the jaggiest running back probably he's the Romeo Dobbs of running backs.
Right.
Amen to that. Wow, right? That's a good one. Rico and Romeo.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome name. Awesome name. Very average player. You telling me Rico Dowdle's better than Javonte Williams? Like, I don't care who the number one running back in Dallas is. I think they can squeak together an RB2 finish as long as it's not too spread out. And
agree.
And
That's bold.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not like super excited about Javonte Williams, but I have him on like 3 teams, and like
Me too.
I'm gonna play him early in the season until we figure this out.
I'm holding.
Yeah.
I'm holding. Like,
Yeah,
because there was a time when I was trying to sell Javonte Williams. Everybody was trying to sell Javonte Williams over the last 2 years, and nobody was buying. I didn't buy very much, but I didn't sell any of my shares either. So it's like, now you're holding. You're like, no, I'm keeping all the Javonte Williams shares I have. I know that you craftily traded for him in a rookie draft, Mr. Joe Kubizakis, from exactly brilliantly. So I think that's smart, right? You did it perfectly. It cost you near nothing to do so, as evidenced by an actual trade analysis that we did on this program. And I would just say that that is what you want to do. You want to get these free guys on your roster. I made a trade for Jordan Love, gave up the requisite amount for Jordan Love, and then Miles Sanders finds his way on. By the way, Harold Fannin also found his way onto my roster. I just got to point that out. Get me my boy. But you just sort of kind of make that stuff happen. Nobody really is holding up a trade that they want to make because of fucking Miles Sanders. It's not happening.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make the pro Miles
Javonte.
I'm gonna make the pro Javonte Williams case right now. All right. So and I know it's a different offensive system and a different offensive coordinator, right? Right now we have a pass happier system in Dallas than we had last season, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
For sure.
But Javonte last year, if I'm not mistaken, he caught 52 passes last year. So,
bro, he was 5th in the NFL in targets at the running back position.
I know.
No one would guess that.
I know, and everyone is plugging Jaden Blue into this pass catcher role, which is primarily what he was at Texas, right? But we don't know how he's going to be as a pass blocker, and you need to be a decent pass blocker if you're going to be in there on passing downs as a running back in the NFL. So, like, I want to bet on Jaden Blue. I am betting on Jaden Blue. I'm taking shots at Jaden Blue because he had no question. I want to be very clear. No question. Jaden Blue has the most upside, right? Chad from Texas might have been onto something with Jaden Blue.
Yeah.
But if he sucks, or if he's just a regular rookie, which is what we can expect from a 5th round pick, then Javonte Williams is kind of going to smash this year as an RB2, catching passes and getting all these meat shield, just garbage rushing plays with some touchdowns. Like, he's probably, he may be the most underrated running back in fantasy right now.
Correct.
I don't like it. I mean, it's gross. I'm like, if you're on YouTube right now, you see me shrugging and like, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. Right?
Totally. That's kind of where I'm sitting too. I think
take that shirt off and burn it right now.
I'm gonna go take a Javonte shower after we're done.
Yeah, like Ace Ventura after he kisses Einhorn. Yeah,
I just realized.
Be careful with that motion.
I just realized on camera what that looked like.
Yeah, wow. You've been using the Shakeweight, Joe? Huh? You've been working out?
God damn it.
Wow. Great form.
Oh, Shakeweight.
We're going to edit that out, right?
But yeah, that's a good take. And we're going to...
the Javonte Williams Shakeweight would be the undrafted title of the show for sure.
In the Shakeweight, yeah. I wonder if that's what he's been using to train. But I think that's well put, because I think he's got pole position too, Joe.
Pole position is right.
I didn't even intend that one. So thank you, Jack. I would have passed that right by. Okay. Are we able to continue here, boys? Or...
Yeah, let's go. What's the next team?
Oh, the next team is going to be so much fun, guys. So much fun. Los Angeles Chargers. Oof. So much fun. This team is predicated on the run game. We know that. We've been talking about how they're going to be super run heavy. That is part of why we were so stoked about Omarion Hampton joining this team as a 1st round pick. That's why we have maybe a little bit of value left in Najee Harris in the market, of course, because he got signed to that big deal. 1 year, like $9.25 million or something they signed him for, which was pretty wild. So we're going to start in that running back room because I think that's the focal point. Well, one of the focal points, I guess. This team has just gotten really sexy overall. You know what I mean? With all of the weapons that are here. So let's talk about Najee and Omarion, because it's like, I think Najee is going to be so involved this season that on the teams that I have Omarion, I am planning for him to not necessarily be a net zero, but I am planning for that because I think Najee is going to be effective in this offense. I think Omarion is going to be fantastic when he gets in there as well. But I think Harbaugh might ride the old dog into the ground on that contract that he's got, trying to save the youngster for the long term. And so, Jackson, it sounds like you're in agreement there. So what do we kind of make of Najee and Omarion's ceiling in this offense?
Yeah, as much as we sort of advocated for taking Omarion at the 1.02, I'm also going to be advocating for him probably being on your bench in week 1. You know, it's like one of those things where you draft the guy like, all right, let's put him on the bench, you know? And so it's one of those. It's one of those. And we saw it with Nick Chubb. We saw it with JT. We've seen it with other running backs where they were so highly vaunted and so excited and they're really good and you know they're going to be good. But there's a guy, you know, and whoever that guy is that is playing ahead of them and keeping them off the field for meaningful amounts of touches. I think he's going to get on the field. I think he's going to, you know, see, 5 to 10 touches a game or something like that. He's going to be the backup running back who gets stuff. He's probably going to be more efficient than Najee Harris. He's probably going to make more splash plays. He's probably going to be way cooler, and we're going to be banging our head against the wall, hoping that he plays more. But Najee Harris is probably going to get the lion's share of it until it's just too much to hold the boy back and Omarion will take over. But how long that will be and how much of a 50-50 split does it become even when Omarion sort of gets his feet under him, that is unknown. I think Najee's going to have some role on this team regardless of even if Omarion sort of quote unquote takes over. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit frustrating in year 1. But yeah, I think Najee, look, there's going to be touchdowns scored with this team's going to be good, man.
Lots.
Right?
Lots.
This team's going to be good. And we wouldn't expect them not to be the sort of, well, look, their coach invented the lunch pail.
Yeah.
They're going to run it.
He's got a nice collection.
Yeah,
for sure.
Snorted.
You didn't know that. That's why you're like, oh, fuck, I didn't know.
Like khakis and
We're running pure tonight, boys. We are running
lunch
pure
pails,
tonight.
right? Totally.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how many games each season Najee Harris has played since he's entered the league?
Every game?
Do you know how many times Najee Harris has not reached 1,000 yards rushing? 0 times. He's run for 1,000 yards. Do you know how many times Najee has caught less than 30 passes? 1 time.
Never.
It was 29. 29 passes. I mean, Najee Harris is a proven producer. And you know what a dude that carries a lunch pail and wears khakis likes? Is like a way better version of Gus Edwards. Him and Greg Roman are drooling at Najee Harris.
Yes.
This is the Thunder, and Omarion, even though he's like a 220-pound back,
he's like Thunder too.
He's the Lightning. Don't make no mistake, he's the Lightning. But on a lunch pail freaking coaching khaki team, like it's Thunder and Thunder Lightning, right? It's just like. So like Najee's gonna get his. I would venture to guess that Najee's gonna lead this team in carries, and he's probably gonna get close to 1,000 yards again. They're probably gonna run it a lot more than we'd like to think, but like Najee's gonna get his. Dude, like this is another dude that's like way undervalued. As much as it makes us like feel gross, it's like, who are the coaches going to trust? They're going to trust the dude that they know is the consummate pro that's going to go out there. He's going to pass block. He's going to catch passes. He's going to do his job. He's going to follow blocks, and you can give him the rock. 15 times a game,
as many times as
15
you want.
times a game for 17 games in a row. That's what they want. Is just predictability and consistency. Keep the train running. So Like, don't.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it. How many games he missed? He's played 68 games. Game 1 will be his 69th. Very nice. But he's played 68 games. How many games do you think he's had less than 10 carries?
I haven't looked, but I'm going to say 0.
No, it's 6. I mean, he's had but like less than 10. I mean, he's basically every week he's getting, he gets 10 carries. Like, I'm sure he's gotten, banged up a time or two here or whatever, but like, he's almost always getting 10 plus carries, if not almost 12 or 15 plus carries in all these games, all of his career. You're right.
I think we're going to see Omarion's role expand and increase as the season goes on, but you can expect week 1, we're going to get a heavy dose of Najee. I mean, Mike Clay's got Najee slated for 130 carries and 522 rushing yards, and I think that's way low. He's got Hampton for 215 carries and 960 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. I think that's way too high. I think it's
215.
I think it's going to be
how many for Najee?
130 carries for Najee, 215 for Omarion. I think that's way off. I think it's going to be way closer to what it's at. That's 345 total. I think that's going to be way closer to like 170 with it tilted way more towards Najee.
I think it's going to flip.
Way more towards Najee early, way more towards Omarion late. With I don't know, it's just going to be an even split. This is Dobbins and Gus Edwards, but this is a way better version of Gus Edwards, right? This is Gus Edwards,
obviously.
How many targets does he have them each getting? Because I think that
he's got Najee getting 22 and Omarion getting 50.
50? There's no way off. Way.
No.
You know why that's way off? And this is what I've been thinking is the problem, not only for both of those guys like producing alongside each other in 2024. This might be a bit of a problem for Omarion's ceiling long term, is they do not throw the ball to the running back very often. And he's a great receiving running back. You know how many targets they gave to the running back in general all of last year? 51.
Yeah.
2 running backs in total last year, second last in the league. And that's a Harbaugh thing. Like, he was not a big targeter of running backs in his San Francisco days. And that's the norm for him to not target his running backs very often. Now, last year was like a perfect shitstorm with all of those injuries that happened. And so probably regresses a little bit, but I have a hard time seeing Omarion getting 50 targets this season, considering they only gave 51 to the running back position total last year. And the amount that they actually want to run the ball, and with the way that we think this team is going to be good and potentially ahead in games, I think that projection is way too high. And I think the lack of targets is what's going to ruin ceiling for both of these guys. And I'm I'm moving cautiously towards what Omarion's ceiling is going to be long term with that kind of fact, because we want him. Joe, you got him in your top 6 dynasty running backs right now, and I think that's among a bunch of guys who get a buttload of targets. And so
fair.
It is fair.
I love him. I feel like I'm always the hole poker in the guys that we love, right?
No, it's a good take.
I kind of feel like I have to do it though. I'm trying to do it for myself, because as I'm trying to plant my flag on these guys, I'm trying to say, okay, are there any holes that make me need to back off?
No, it's a good take.
I'm not backing off of Omarion, but I'm just maybe raising an eyebrow.
So let's take a step back for a second. Najee, how long was his deal? I want to say it was a 1-year deal.
1 year. 1 year, 925.
So like medium term outlook for Omarion is still good, and you shouldn't base your valuation of him as a dynasty asset based on a 1-year roadblock. But let's just say things go swimmingly with Najee, right? Let's just say they love him as much as they claim to during OTAs. And he gets re-signed. That's where you run into a problem. A problem. I actually, as we're talking through this, I kind of think like for the dudes that missed out on Omarion, I got 2 shares of Omarion during all of rookie draft season, right? I wanted more, but I got 2 shares of Omarion. Like, he might end up being a real good buy low. Particularly like even next offseason, let's just say they re-sign Najee next offseason. That's when he's real buy low. Like, no one's gonna sell him to you mid-season. They know he's a rookie.
They will. No, they will.
You think they're that dumb? I don't play with people that dumb.
No, you do. You do. You all play with people this dumb. They sold Chubb. They sold JT. I was there. I grabbed
You're
the
right.
bags.
You're right.
I've grabbed bags of Jamar Chase. I grabbed bags of DK Metcalf. All of the guys who like come out of the gate and were bad. It happens every single year. Ceedee Lamb did that. He was. Remember when everybody was worried about him. So
Yeah.
every rookie is going to have a buy low moment, and Omarion's going to offer you a very, very strong buy low, I think, because of everything we just said. By the way, 215 carries and 50 targets. I would smash the accept button on that right now if I'm a Omarion bag holder.
There's no way that's happening.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it really would. Okay, guys, we're now another sexy position where there's two guys we love.
Wait, we're not gonna talk about Kamani Vidal.
So the wide receivers, Joe.
It's not nice.
Of course, you guys have been pounding the table for Ladd McConkey, maybe a little bit more than I have. We have all been pounding the table for Trey Harris this offseason, and he was drafted there in the second round. They've also got Quentin Johnston, who had got some volume last year. He did a little bit of stuff with it, but nothing that great, but he's there. And they re-signed Mike Dubs. And I just kind of like the nostalgia of this kind of stuff when a guy returns home to the team he was drafted by. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be anything, but I just kind of like the story of that. So guys, as it was unfolding, like, you guys have got me. Ladd's going to be dope. His role's set. It's secure. As much as I want to poke holes in Ladd McConkey,
Can't do it.
They're pretty small.
2.57
But
yards.
fuck it, because I'm trying anyways, boys. I'm trying anyway. Okay, so fuck it. First concern, and I've been saying this all along. I've been wanting to get into this conversation since Trey Harris was drafted, and it's not if Trey Harris is killing Ladd McConkey. So just let me get it out first here, okay? So what's the touchdown upside for Ladd McConkey? He got 7 last year, or he got 8 last year. Sorry, Quentin Johnston got 7. I don't see Ladd McConkey being a guy who can give us 10 touchdowns in any given season. He might do it from time to time here and there, but he's not a guy where I'm going to go into that season and say, yeah, he's going to give me 10 touchdowns probably. Like, you look at Devontae Adams, definitely a good bet for 10 touchdowns. Ladd's not a guy that I'm necessarily going to be banking on that.
What about JSN?
And if I'm One sec. Okay. And so if we have him as a top 12 dynasty running back and he's going as the wide receiver 11, he really needs those touchdowns to pay that off, boys. He's not just going to get it on targets alone. He needs those touchdowns to pay it off because he's not going to be getting deep work. And if we look at what he was doing last season, I know he was a rookie. I know he was just coming in, but he was used a lot from the jump and he was pretty inconsistent until the running backs were absolutely fucking massacred in this offense. So prior to week 12, Ladd McConkey had 10 games played, 5 under 10 PPR points, 5 over 10 PPR points. So 50-50, he's a rookie. That's totally fine. After week 12 is when he really started to blow up, but that's when they were trotting out guys like Hassan Haskins and a dusty ass Gus Edwards. We look at the pass rate in those games. So before week 12, they were roughly like a 50-ish% pass rate team. Week 11 is when they started to get kind of banged up. And from week 11 on, they were probably about like a 70% pass rate team. So their pass rate went up almost 20% after all of those running backs got injured. And that's when Ladd started to take off. So I think if we look at the fact that we've added another significant weapon in the pass game in Trey Harris, who doesn't take the same type of targets that Ladd McConkey is taking, but he is going to take some of the targets on a very run heavy team who is more equipped to maintain their run heavy nature with these two running backs that they have. So if you're telling me all of that stuff is in place, I don't necessarily see Ladd returning on this top 12 ups or top 12 price that he has right now. So look at last year. He finished as the wide receiver 19. Rookie season, we're projecting a breakout. That's totally fine. But if I'm going to project a breakout from some of those guys, I'm probably going to project it on some guys who give me maybe more of a ceiling in their profile and the volume that they get than one Ladd McConkey. Maybe a little bit of the situation too, right? Like a guy who has maybe a better situation. I don't know. I think it's fine if you want to take that risk and you want to. I am totally down for somebody taking a bet on a guy they think is going to blow up, right? I'm doing that. I'm still calling Trey Benson. Like, I've been pounding the table for Trey fucking Benson in the group chats over the last couple of days. Like, I do that too. But I think if you are taking that leap on buying Ladd McConkey at his current price, you have baked in zero of the risk that he doesn't make that leap. You know what I mean? I think last year was a great season for him. And the leap that we're projecting out of him is that he's going to get into a tier that I don't think he belongs in. So that's kind of my case for, and I'm like, I'm not saying he's outside of the top 20, because I think he's like probably like a top 16, 18 wide receiver for me in Dynasty, knowing that he can produce in that kind of top 15. But that's my case against Ladd McConkey, because I had to kind of find a way to maybe poke some holes in it. He's one that I'm questioning for myself too. I like him. I think he's dope. I think the way that he produces is fantastic, and I want it for him because you guys have been driving that home for me, but I'm not quite sure I see it to the level that you guys see it.
You want to go, or you want me to go,
Go
Joe?
ahead, Jax.
Oh boy, Trav.
I have to do it. We have to test
Trav.
it, and that's what I'm doing. Okay.
You want me to go, or you want to still keep fumbling over your words?
I think I laid out a decent.
Let me go.
There,
Let
boys.
me do this. This is all for effect. Sit back, relax, and just soak it in.
I will.
Okay?
I'm gonna even mute myself.
It's almost like just sit on the edge of your seat while I do this. Allow me to bring you to the edge of your seat.
The stimulation is going to be uncontrollable.
Yes, this is going to be an anticlimactic take. Look, he was number 7 in the NFL in yards per route run. He was number 8 in the NFL with quarterback rating per target, which factors in something called touchdowns. He was super efficient. His target rate was also top 25 in the NFL. Like, he does earn targets. That was all as a rookie. So he was hyper efficient and an amazing target earner. So all I care about is target earning, really, anyhow, because a starting wide receiver who gets a lot, you're nodding your head. Name me a 150 target wide receiver that didn't return value. Like, if he's able to earn.
You think he's getting 150 targets in this offense? That is insane. Wow.
What did he get last year? Hang on. I'm pulling up.
112.
Not 150.
Yeah, I got
112 as a rookie.
112 last year. Okay, but this team is so run heavy, and like, they don't even want to pass the ball that much. So 22% of the targets.
You don't get to determine whether you pass the ball or not. Your game script does. You either must pass the ball.
Game script project to be this year? It projects to be great for the run game.
I mean, the Raiders got a better quarterback. Denver's much stronger. Kansas City's very good, obviously.
Fine.
So they're going to need to keep up with 3 better offenses, especially Denver and Las Vegas got better on offense. I mean, Vegas especially. I mean, they had a cream puff there. They're sorry, Joe. Didn't mean to shards just coming at you there. But but look, this is a target earner of epic proportions. I think he I just don't know what else you want. Like, you talk about touchdown upside. Dude made a big play in the playoffs that I think we all saw. Like, he was the only weapon on the team. Now they do have a running game, which is going to open up things in the passing game. I don't know, man. I just really think that when it comes down to it, he's the number 1 target on that team because he's a tremendous target earner. And what turned out to be a guy that they weren't so sure was going to be as good as he was one of the most efficient and prolific wide receivers in the NFL, which we did not see coming. I will tell you that if you asked me, I was like, he's going to earn targets at a pretty awesome level. And we talked about this with him as a prospect coming out. I remember we talked about the missed tackles forced per reception. He was just behind Malik Neighbors for like second or third in the class. And we're like, wait, what? I was like, what is this kid? Like, when you look at data like that and then it shows on the field, you have to just believe it. I think you're looking at his rainbow lunch pail and you're seeing some things in the lunch pail that you're not liking. I would say you got to look past the lunch pail because
his lunch pail's fucking dope.
Look, I'm
I
just
am
saying.
all about the
All
lunch
right.
pail.
Just saying.
Can I interject
so
here because I think
efficiency doesn't always mean a volume increase, though. Like efficiency doesn't always mean
I think
a
it's the
massive.
lunch
That
pail
is a
that is
massive.
reflecting things, and you're seeing
That
too
is-
much lunch pail.
That is more than a 30% volume increase that you projected for
Not
him.
really.
Trav. So
150 targets from 112.
I'm not saying he's going to get to 150 easy. I'm saying that over the course of his career, he's a 150 target guy because, or 112 as a rookie. He's a 120 plus target guy. He's going to get into the 130s and things of that nature.
You said 150.
I said
you guys
150.
both said
I
yes.
said 150.
A confident yes
I
to
did.
150.
He did.
targets
I
for Ladd
hesitated
McConkey.
when you asked me. I mean, it
Okay.
was a little bit,
Okay.
aggressive.
I'm good with it. All right. So Trav, let me just forget the numbers for a second. Forget.
I love this, by the way, boys.
Forget.
This
I
is so
want
much
you to
fun.
forget about the numbers for a second. Forget about last year's stats. Forget about the numbers. I just want you to think about what type of profile are you looking for? What type of player are you looking for that is going to be a number one wide receiver in fantasy?
We like the versatile slot flankers who get a bunch
he's
of
going
targets.
to be playing. He's going to be
That's fair.
playing in two
That's
wide
fair.
receiver sets and three wide
That's
receiver
fair.
sets, and on three
That's
wide
fair.
receiver sets, he's going to be kicked into the slot. That's it. That's Ceedee Lamb. That's Ceedee Lamb.
fine,
That's
but
Jamar
I just
Chase.
don't
That's
think
Malik
that's going
Neighbors.
to predicate the volume. I don't think that's going to predicate the volume to vault him into this echelon that everybody vaults him into, right? Like he finished as the wide receiver 19 last year. That's great for a rookie wide receiver. But to say that he's going to get that big of an increase in targets on a team that does not want to pass the ball near as much as they passed the ball last year. But you guys are saying who earns targets, and that's all you want is a guy who earns targets.
I'm profiling him, right? So we've got a dude that's going to play in two wide receiver sets and move into the slot in three wide receiver sets, right?
Yeah.
Number one target earner on his team, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out is he, to Jax's point, great at yak and missed tackles forced. I mean, he's got check. All the things you look for a dude that can be a number one wide receiver, he's got. All you're talking about.
Downfield targets, Joe.
All you're talking about right now is pass volume, which we don't have control over, right? So you're saying there's not going to be enough pass volume in this offense for him to get there. That could be the case in any offense, right? But he checks every box in terms of characteristics of dudes we look for to be not just a wide receiver one, but an elite wide receiver one. Inside, outside game, number one target earner, great after the catch, right? I mean, what are we going to say? Like maybe he's not a great end zone target or a contested catch guy. He's not a great contested catch guy because he's wide open all the time. That's a great thing.
He had 7 touchdowns. I mean, 7 touchdowns is great. Let me just add one more thing.
It's good.
Hey,
but is he
really
going to repeat that year over year? What happens if he has 3 years in a row of like 2, 3,
Why
4
would he
touchdowns?
have that? Why would he have that? The NFL, he's going to be...
Because they run the ball a lot. They've got a big wide receiver they just drafted.
So you're not interested in Justin Herbert, that's for sure. Because if
I like Justin Herbert.
Why would you like Justin Herbert if his number one receiver is going to have 2 touchdowns?
I think he can still reach his ceiling by spreading it around a little more. You know what I mean? I think Trey Harris is fucking dope.
Sure.
First off,
look, there's room for other players.
I think I like Justin Herbert, but I do think that the offense still, if it runs the way that Harbaugh wants to run it, he's probably capped.
I'm going to give you some splits. I'm going to give you some splits, Trav. In his first 4 games, he was 44 yards per game. In his second 4, 66. In his last 8, he was 88. He just went.
They had no running backs,
or because he was a rookie that was progressing.
Thank you. Of course,
he was progressing, but out of necessity, guys. They had no. Then they didn't have the running backs.
He went from 11. He went from 11 yards per reception to 13 to 15.
Because they were forced to throw the ball a bunch more.
He went from 7 yards per target to 9 yards per target to 12 yards per target. He got better. That's what happened. That's wasn't because they ran out of running backs. They might have run out of running backs, but that does not.
Both of these things can be true, though.
Look, the number of good running backs on a team does not increase the efficiency of a wide receiver. I'm not even.
But I'm saying both of these things can be true that he can be very efficient, but still not get that increase in volume that you guys are
How many
projecting
pass
to
attempts?
make him.
How many pass attempts are you projecting for?
I don't
for
have the
Herbert?
fucking number.
I'm just
I
saying.
know
Well,
they
how
passed
many does
way
Mike
Mike
more.
Clay
Clay's
have? How many
got
does Mike Clay?
Justin Herbert
Yeah,
for
good call.
509 pass attempts, 333
Great.
completions,
That's
which
low.
is fairly
Great.
That's what they want.
Great. And what
That's
was
they want
what
to
was
do.
what? Hold on, let me finish. What was his target percentage to Ladd McConkey last year in his rookie year with some of those low numbers early on? 25%. 25.
22.9.
I've got 24.
Yeah, game by game.
Whatever. 23 to 24, 25 in his rookie season, which was an accelerating number, not a number that was decreasing. So certainly 25 plus of 509 is 130-ish. So 130 plus targets in this offense. That's what we can project
Maybe.
for him. What do you
Yep.
mean? Unless his efficiency
Fair.
takes
Yep.
off. If his efficiency
Okay.
tanks and he's not as
Yeah.
efficient and not targeted as much in his second year than he was in his first year, which is crazy. That does not happen to players who come out of the box looking like he did, who averaged 15 yards a catch in the second half of the season, 12 yards per target. Like, he was very, 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 very good. So he's going to be
So
very
he's a
good
no-risk
again.
player to you guys?
What's that?
So you guys think there's no risk in Ladd right now
None.
to take him as the wide receiver 11?
None at all whatsoever.
In Dynasty startups?
Yeah, none at all.
None.
He's the best player.
Because
He's the
I'm
best
just
player
ha-
on his
yeah.
team. I mean, it's as simple as that.
I agree with that. I agree with that. He is the best player, but I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm not
You're
taking
saying
him at that
he
price.
won't deliver. I mean,
What thing won't
yeah,
he
I know.
do?
What exactly? It's like, how many first round picks?
Maybe he doesn't score
Let's
touchdowns.
put it this way: how many first round
Maybe not.
picks would it take for you to sell Ladd?
I'd sell him for a
Oh
first
my
plus,
God.
a first and a strong producer for
Mhm.
my team.
I
Like, I don't think he's going to be a
I think
perennial
he's in
top
like the
10 wide
3.
receiver guy.
I
That's
wouldn't
wild.
sell him for 2 firsts.
He's close to 3.
Yeah, he's close.
Yeah.
I
You wouldn't
said
sell him
2
Not
for
firsts
two.
and
two
a
naked
producer,
firsts.
yeah.
No, thank you.
2 firsts
Yeah, two
and a
naked
strong
firsts. No,
producer,
thank you.
maybe, and I'd have a hard time doing it.
Yeah, it's just so
See,
sure.
I would trade him for like another young running back that somebody likes Ladd better, or a young wide receiver that somebody likes Ladd better. And a
Do you
first.
have Ladd?
So
Do you have
Roma
Ladd in
Dunze-
any of the
Roma
leagues we're in
Dunze?
together? Because I'm interested.
Yeah, no shit.
Maybe
I'm gonna.
we're gonna have to find out, boys.
Roma
I'm gonna
Dunze
get 3 first-round picks
and
out of you
Caleb
last week.
Johnson.
You told me it's a first round pick and a strong producer.
Hey, Roma Dunze and Caleb Johnson.
Now I know.
Roma Dunze and
Roma
Caleb Johnson.
Dunze what?
Roma Dunze, Caleb Johnson.
Yeah. Give me
For
Ladd.
I'd be squeezing.
Oh,
so I probably
okay.
wouldn't accept it for that.
Crawfish
if
a
I
little
could
bit on
squeeze-
that one.
No, that's borderline because of the market. Like, obviously, like, I might value him at that, but if I know I could get more out of you two, so I'm obviously going to ask for more. But I just think it's wild that you think there's no risk in him whatsoever on this team. And I don't think it's him. It's not risk in him. Yes, there's risk in everybody. I get that. But I think there is more risk in him at his cost than people are giving it credit for. So I think we're going to find out, guys. I think we're going to find out.
He's the number one asset on the Chargers. And I think he's in the top half of wide receiver ones. Right? Like, I don't know. He's a top 16 wide receiver. So you're saying he might be a top 24 wide receiver? Like, what's the risk?
JSN or Ladd McConkey?
All day, every day.
JSN.
Yeah, of course it's Ladd, but I knew he was going to say JSN.
That's crazy.
JSN's never done what he's done. He's never done it.
He finished as the wide receiver 6 last year, and he's going to project to get much more outside work this season than he did last year. So I think he turns into that slot flanker, and I just think he's a more talented player.
He turns into Ladd?
With more ability to go downfield. Like, Ladd's not getting any deep targets, guys. Like, you want ultra ceiling out of your wide receiver 1. Like, look at the guys who finished with, let's see,
I kind of remember in a playoff game, Ladd getting a deep target and scoring a long ass touchdown on it. Where he was the only thing they had going in that game. I mean, I don't know. It's just so clear to me. And
that's such a small sample, guys.
You're just saying he's not getting any deep targets. Last time we saw him, he was getting deep targets.
Well, no. Yeah, you're latching onto a target that he got in a playoff game, which was
the most important game of the season.
Did it affect fantasy football though? Like because
right. I'm just saying,
dude, this is wild.
His A dot was 10.7 in his rookie year. So I don't know what we're talking about.
That's not that. Like that's not a
we
downfield
want it
target
to be
though, man.
between 10
That's
and 14.
a little bit
That's
more
in-
than a low.
That's in
That's
the
the
sweet
sweet
spot.
spot.
That's in the range we want it to
And-
be. We don't want it south of 10. We don't want it south of 9, actually.
And it was increasing all year. It was more and more as the year went on.
So do you think he has the same ceiling as like Drake London?
Okay, they're pretty close to me. I think, I mean, oh man, that one's hard.
That's close.
That one's hard.
Drake
London is the right
Drake
answer. London is the right answer.
Yeah.
But if gun to my head, who do I want more? I don't know. We saw it with Ladd. I want Ladd.
Yeah.
You guys have them in the same tier.
For sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you know my nickname for Ladd. You gave us the Dob Goblin last week for J.K. Dobbins. You know my nickname for Ladd, right? Nightcrawler.
What?
He does not run routes. He
right.
teleports.
Right. Yeah.
He teleports.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've missed, especially if we're staying on brand for this show, we have missed the biggest nickname opportunity of all nicknames with Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey.
I knew you were gonna do it. Come on, bro. We gotta cut that. I'm not letting that on the show.
Silver fucking platter. Silver fucking platter. We're allowed to say it, Joe. Shut up.
That's too low. Too low hanging. Too low hanging.
Come on.
Dob Goblin and now McConkey.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
we are the lunch pail kings, and that one didn't come out. Are you kidding me? I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's blowing the roof off the
fruit
place.
is so low hanging. It's actually
silver
fruit on the
platter.
ground, right? That's what that is.
Yeah.
You don't eat the fruit on the ground. That fruit stinks.
Ironically, pick up the
Don't
fruit.
eat that fruit on the
Rotten
ground. That's
fruit.
rotten fruit.
Okay, guys. So since you think I suck so fucking bad,
Mhm.
what was all of this love for Trey Harris that we had, and what was all of this excitement for the landing spot? And how does he not have an impact on your Lord and Savior, Laddrick McConkey?
Well, for one, this dude named Quentin Johnston got 87 targets last year. This other guy named, I don't know, DJ Chark only got 7. Josh Palmer got 61 targets last year. So between the two of them, that's like 148 targets to go around. I'm not saying QJ is going to get 0, but I don't think he's getting 87 again. Although I will say he was kind of efficient last year, but most of that was on broken plays if you really pay attention.
He was better than you expected his numbers to look,
exactly.
for sure.
So if QJ can get 87, Trey Harris can get 100, right? And QJ could fall into that Josh Palmer range of like 60-ish.
Jesus, man.
What?
How much are they going to throw the fucking ball?
I mean,
So, like, if Trey's getting 100 and Ladd's getting 150.
I'm not saying Trey's getting 100. I'm saying he's probably taking a good chunk. I mean, QJ got 87. Do we not think
And QJ's not going away though? Like,
but Trey Palmer
I don't think he's going away.
Trey Palmer did go away.
Josh Palmer went away. They also signed Mike Williams back though, which is kind of greasy, but he also operates in that same area of the field. So if he gets snaps at all, he's taking him away from Trey Harris.
That's probably right.
And so
That's probably right. I think Trey Harris might be like a late season riser, right? I don't think we're going to see him
buy low, right?
Yeah, but we can count on the fact that Mike Williams is going to leap up for a catch, land on his neck awkwardly, and miss 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's totally right. That's totally right. But I mean, if he runs 100 routes, it's a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? No, I'm not even going to go as deep in on you on the Trey Harris thing because you're right. He could get those 100 targets if Quentin doesn't produce or doesn't get a chance in there. But I'm curious to see how it works out because they got a lot of guys in there. Like if they go more 3 wide receiver sets, guys, this entire argument that I've been a part of is fucked from my end, not your end. But I don't necessarily see them doing that. And so I'm having a hard time seeing their ex receiver really paying off for us in 2025 at least, right? Which is why I think like Trey Harris is going to be that guy where more so than Omarion, I'm pretending like he's going to be a net zero and I'm happy with anything that he gives me this year. And then on teams where I don't have him, I'm going to be putting mad feelers out after this season because he's going to be a lot cheaper. And I think he has some of that explosive upside to be, to do a lot more with what volume Quentin Johnston got this year. That's for sure.
A lot more worried about Trey Harris than I am about Ladd. We'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, me too. I will say
I also
that. Me
think
too.
there's going to be
Yeah.
some. I think Oronde Gadsden is going to have something
Fun,
to
yeah.
say about this target pie as well. And I don't think he's going to be like a startable asset, but I think we're going to see kind of some signs that he's going to be their dude. Jax, what do you think about?
By season's end, he could be startable.
Can you share with me what Mike Clay has? Just run down the targets of all players, what he thinks, because I have some takes. I would let me just tell you what I think. First of all, I think Ladd, probably 125, 130 is where I would put him.
Mike Clay's got him at
Excuse me. I would
124.
put Quentin Johnston.
Mike Clay's got him at 124. Keep
I
going.
would put Quentin Johnston somewhere around 70.
66 is where Mike Clay's got him. Great job. Keep going.
I would put Trey
Damn.
Harris around 60.
He's got Trey Harris at 78.
Ooh.
Even better. Because there's a Mike Williams thing, I think Mike Williams probably 25.
He's got Mike Williams at 73.
Holy shit.
Whoa! Whoa.
So those
there
four
you go.
guys are, and he's got 70-something targets to the running backs. How the fuck does that work?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. 500.
500 something attempts.
Um,
There's also 50.
Yeah.
And those are the only
There's
guys
also
getting
56
targets.
to Conklin, 45 to Will Dissly, and 10 to Gadsden.
wow.
So,
Wow.
I mean, you guys are acting like they're just, and I shouldn't say you guys. I'm sorry. I think there
Y'all
are
be
targets
acting.
to go around. I think 60-ish for Quentin
course there are.
Johnston is plenty. I think Trey Harris and Mike Williams is going to be a tale of two seasons, where Mike Williams probably starts out early and Harris kind of takes over in that role, and we see that typical rookie progression late in the season.
Yeah.
And I think
There were listen to this. There was 50 targets, 55 targets that went to Darius Davis, Simi Fehoko,
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor, and DJ
Yeah.
Chark.
Great polls.
You know what I mean?
polls.
No, that's just what it was. Davis was 17, Fehoko was 16, Reagor 12, Chark 10. So,
Reagor.
with those guys combined, you're talking about 50 targets that are they were just searching for someone to play wide receiver, at some point. And of course, it was Ladd, Quentin, and Palmer. But now Palmer's gone. You bring in Trey Harris. The Mike Williams thing. The over under, if it was set at 78, I would smash the under with all of my life savings. I mean, if he gets over 70, just because I don't think he'll stay healthy enough. I mean, if you told me he played 17 games, I'd rescind that bet, but I just don't think he's any way that Mike Williams goes out there and plays 17 games and gets 78 targets. That just doesn't make sense. So I think he's somewhere south of 50 when it really comes down to it, missing games. And I think they're going to want to see Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey as their three wide receiver sets. And you're right. I don't know what they're going to do. It's Conklin and Dissly and Gadsden. I'm not sure we see too much of Gadsden year one, although Harbaugh does seem to like him a bit, but it's hard to get on the field as a rookie tight end.
Those khakis were tight when he was talking about Oronde Gadsden.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm feeling very good about Ladd. I'm feeling very good about Trey. I think QJ is kind of sneaky as a playmaker, and I think Mike Williams probably starts the year being quasi-useful and then just fades into oblivion.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. So before we ride this bad boy out, we did have a couple more teams on here, but
Part two.
Are you saying we edged them? We edged them.
We didn't climax.
And I said we love to go deep, but I'm not necessarily sure with what Joe's saying.
We teased them.
But
yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We lied to him about how this show would finish.
Halfway in.
Would you say the show was ruined?
So anyway, we have a couple more teams that we're going to push to another episode because we went deep, but I think what that means is we gave you a ton of value in this episode and some really good in-depth talk about some of these players from a Dynasty lens. And so arguments, as we are one to do on this show, which I think just adds to the fun. But Joe, before we ride this one out, I want you to really rub some salt in my wounds and just give me the rest of that Ladd McConkey projection.
The rest of the Ladd McConkey projection. So Mike Clay's got him at 124 targets, 84 receptions, 1,035 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think he just profiles as a 100-catch dude, does he not? He just profiles as a 100-catch dude. I just think that's going to be clockwork very soon in the fantasy lexicon. I'm mixing, ways we measure things and define things, but you know what I mean.
And I think Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston are the perfect guys to have around him because they are dangerous. They're dangerous. So, having them either on the field in 2 wide receiver sets alongside, one of them alongside Ladd, or, on the outside or moving around, and Ladd is, it's hard to keep track of him when you've got 2 guys that can long stride, get deep, especially Trey Harris. So, yeah, man. I mean, obviously Quentin can get deep too, but when it gets to him, he usually drops it.
That was mean, Jax.
Sorry.
It'll be interesting to see it play out, because I think, like all of our arguments that we have on this show, it's going to be so much fun to see them play out. I think Mike Clay's projection might be on my side. You guys think I suck. I think you guys are crazy. And that's part of the fun of why we do this week after week after week, is to just enjoy the time with each other, put some takes out there, and see if they land. So we're cutting this one off at that. Great episode. Really appreciate everyone who's subscribed, followed, commented on the episode. We're having a lot of fun with that. Discord, like we said, it is free. Check out the socials. You can find it there. And we can be followed there. Any parting shots for the people, fellas?
Dynasty_Joe on Twitter. I don't know. Is that what we're supposed to do here?
There you go. There you go.
Ladd McConkey.
I don't even know what we're supposed to do there. I don't know what I'm serving you guys up for. Just
Ladd
to have an awkward
McConkey
moment,
lunch pail, something or other.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Okay. For Jax Falcone, for Joe Quavius Kuvatakis, fucking stutter machine Travis Seal over here. We'll see you next week. Peace.